I thought I was seeing things at first. Maybe a trick of the light, a weird reflection, or my mind playing games. But no, really did it. He replaced my face in every single wedding photo. With hers. It started like any other Thursday night. I was sitting on the floor of our living room, reorganizing our bookshelf, looking for an old journal. That's when I found the leather-bound photo album tucked behind the travel guides. Our wedding album. Or what I thought was our wedding album. The cover still had our initials in gold. J&E. Jason and Emily. I smiled. We'd only been married for 11 months, and I remember how excited he was putting the album together after our honeymoon in Greece. He insisted on doing it himself. I thought it was sweet. I didn't think much of it when he never let me see the final version. "It's not ready," he'd say, or, "I want to surprise you for our anniversary." I believed him. I trusted him. I opened the album. The first photo was him standing under the arch of white roses. But the woman next to him wasn't me. She had auburn hair, long lashes, and a familiar face. Took me a second to place her. Then my stomach dropped. It was Kayla, his ex-girlfriend. The one he said was completely in the past. The one he claimed had broken him. The one whose name was never supposed to be said out loud in our home. But there she was. In my wedding dress. In my spot. Face smiling where mine should have been. I turned the page, horrified. There we were, they were cutting the cake. Again it was my body, my arms, my stupid fondant-covered face. But her face was photoshopped on top of mine. Badly too. The skin tones didn't match. Her face was slightly too big. The shadows were off. I could see the faint edges where he cropped mine out. Page after page, moment after moment, smile after stolen smile. I slammed the album shut and stared at it like it might burst into flames. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I felt like I was falling. Drowning. Jason was in the shower upstairs, completely unaware that his world was about to catch fire. I didn't even wait. I grabbed a suitcase from the closet, stuffed it with whatever I could, leggings, t-shirts, my laptop, toothbrush, and walked out the door. I didn't leave a note. I didn't send a text. I just left. That night I stayed at my best friend Mia's house. She opened the door to me crying and carrying a half-zipped suitcase. She didn't ask questions. She just hugged me and let me collapse onto her couch. When I finally told her, she froze. "You're joking," she whispered. "Please tell me you're joking." I wish I was. She sat with me in silence for a long time. Then she got up, poured us both wine, and said, "Okay. You're not going back." I nodded. I didn't want to. The next morning my phone exploded. 10 missed calls from Jason. Dozens of texts. Some confused. Some angry. One of them just said, "Where the hell are you?" I ignored them all. Then a few hours later I got an email from him. A long rambling explanation that made things worse. According to him, the wedding album was a creative experiment. Something therapeutic to help him let go of old pain. He said seeing Kayla's face in those photos helped him process closure. He actually wrote, "It's not about you. It's about me healing from what she did to me. Please don't make this bigger than it is." Not about me. I was his wife. That was our wedding. And he literally deleted me from it. The next part made me want to scream. "I didn't think you'd find the album. I was going to delete it after I got it out of my system. So, it was okay to erase me as long as I didn't know?" Mia took the phone out of my hand and muttered, "I'll kill him." We both knew it wasn't just about the photos. It was what the photos meant. That he still clung to the ghost of a woman who broke him. That somewhere deep down he wished she'd been the one he married. And worst of all, he chose to relive that fantasy in the ugliest way possible. A few days later, Mia helped me return to the house to get the rest of my stuff. Jason wasn't home. Or maybe he was and didn't have the guts to come out. I didn't care. I wasn't there for a confrontation. I just wanted to be done. I packed everything in silence. But before I left, I took one last look at that album. I didn't take it with me. I didn't rip it up. I just left it on the kitchen table, open to the first page. A quiet reminder of the moment I disappeared from my own story and the moment I decided to rewrite it without him. But the story didn't end there. A week later, I got a message from someone unexpected. Becca, Jason's younger sister. We'd always gotten along, but we hadn't talked much since the wedding. She asked if we could meet for coffee. I agreed. We sat outside a quiet cafe, and the second she saw me, her face fell. "You found the album," she said. I blinked. "Wait, you knew?" She nodded slowly, guilt crawling up her face. "I'm sorry. I told him it was sick. I begged him to delete it before you ever saw it." "You saw it?" "I was there the day he was editing it. He made me promise not to tell you. Said it was a phase. I didn't think he'd actually print the thing." I stared at her in disbelief. Why would he even do that? She paused, looked down and said, "Because he never got over her. And I don't think he ever really saw you. You were the safe choice, Emily. The one who'd never leave him. But now you did." It was brutal honesty but freeing. That night I lay awake thinking about those words. The one who'd never leave him. He thought I was the fallback girl. The placeholder. The consolation prize. But he was wrong. Because I did leave. And I wasn't looking back. I didn't cry after that conversation with Becca. I thought I would. But instead something settled in me. Like the final click of a lock turning. The grief was still there, sure, but now it had shape. And that shape looked a lot like truth. I wasn't the love of Jason's life. I was the replacement tire he used after a blowout. That realization should have shattered me, but oddly enough it set me free. I started house hunting. Nothing big. Just a small one-bedroom in a neighborhood with trees and bakeries and women walking their dogs in yoga pants. I paid the deposit using part of the emergency savings I'd built long before marrying Jason. Money he didn't even know I had. I was moving on. Piece by piece. Then the second twist hit me like a freight train. It was a Tuesday morning, 2 weeks post-separation. I was packing dishes at Mia's place when her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, blinked and held it out to me. "You're gonna want to see this." It was a post from Kayla. Public. Proud. Insane. A picture of Jason and her together on the front steps of our house. Captioned, "Some chapters never really end. Ring second chances, my own." She was wearing my hoodie. My literal gray zip-up. The one I used to wear on rainy days or lazy Sundays. The one that smelled like lemon detergent and a decade of comfort. My jaw clenched so tight I heard it pop. "That's my house," I whispered. "No," Mia corrected gently. "That's your old house. You don't live there anymore." The rage came slow like molasses boiling. He didn't even wait. Didn't even wait. Less than a month after I left, and he had her back. In the house we decorated together. Sleeping in our bed. Wearing my clothes. And then it hit me. The album wasn't a fantasy. It was a rehearsal. Jason didn't just edit those photos for therapy. He was already mentally replacing me long before I ever walked out the door. Maybe he even hoped I'd find the album and leave. Maybe this was all by design. His twisted, coward's way of making room for her without having to do the dirty work himself. I didn't respond. I didn't comment on the post. I just sat there silently fuming. It was Mia who finally broke the silence. "You know what the worst part is?" she muttered. "She knows. Kayla knows exactly what she's doing. That post? That's not for her followers. That's for you." I didn't answer. Because deep down I knew Mia was right. The next few weeks were strange. I felt like a ghost haunting my own past. Every time I scrolled social media, I saw my life being worn like a costume. She cooked in my kitchen. She watered the plants I chose. She posted from the balcony where Jason and I used to drink wine and plan our future. Once I even saw my cat in the background of a photo. My cat Tuna, a rescue I'd had since college, curling up on Kayla's lap like nothing had changed. I couldn't take it anymore. Called Jason. He picked up immediately. "I want Tuna," I said flatly. "You can keep the rest. The furniture, the house, the ghost of your past. But Tuna comes with me." There was silence on the line. Then a sigh. "You walked out, Em. You left everything." "I didn't leave her. You hid her from me. You never said I couldn't come back for her." Another pause. "You're being emotional." That was the wrong thing to say. "I'm being merciful," I snapped. "You don't want this to go through lawyers, Jason. Trust me. Give me my cat, or I'll take the whole damn album to court and explain to a judge why my face was photoshopped out of our wedding." He agreed to meet the next day. He showed up at Mia's place with tuna in a pink carrier and a face like he hadn't slept in days. I didn't let him inside. I didn't even speak. I took the cat, nodded once and closed the door. That should have been the end. But Jason wasn't done. 2 days later I got a letter in the mail. Not an email. Not a text. An actual envelope with my name scrawled across the front in his messy handwriting. Inside was a note that started with, "I owe you more than just an apology." He rambled. Said he was confused. That he never meant to hurt me. That Kayla came back into his life unexpectedly. And that the album had started as a jokey, stupid one between him and his therapist. Right. Blame the therapist. He ended the letter with, "I don't want to lose you. Please let's talk. If nothing else, I want to understand how we got here." I didn't respond, because I did understand how we got there. He kept trying to build a life with a woman who wasn't me, and I kept pretending I didn't notice. Mia told me to burn the letter. Instead, I folded it neatly, placed it in a box labeled "Nope," and shoved it in the back of my closet. Some people bury the past. I prefer to box it. But here's the thing. Even as I rebuilt, even as I started going to therapy and planting basil on my tiny new windowsill, part of me still ached. Because I didn't just lose a husband. I lost the version of myself who believed in him. And that woman, she was kind, hopeful, brave enough to love a broken man. But maybe that's the part one needed to grieve most of all. Weeks turned into months. Life, as it always does, kept moving. And then just when the dust was starting to settle, I saw her. Kayla. In person. At the farmer's market. Holding a paper bag full of strawberries, laughing with a friend. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was closure. Maybe it was madness. But I walked right up to her. She looked startled. "Emily." I nodded. "Can we talk?" She hesitated. Then surprisingly said yes. We found a bench near the fountain. For a moment we just sat there. Two women tangled in the same mess of a man. "You knew, didn't you?" I asked quietly. "About the album." She glanced away. "I did." "Did he show it to you?" She nodded. I let the silence grow heavy. Finally I said, "You wore my hoodie." That made her laugh. Not cruelly. Just tired. "He told me it didn't fit you." I blinked. "Excuse me." She looked at me then. Really looked. "Jason said you gained weight. That you were depressed. That you didn't want the hoodie anymore." I froze. My breath caught in my throat. "He said a lot of things," she added. "Things I believed until I saw you." I stared at her. "Why are you with him?" Her mouth opened then closed. "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe because he still talks about you." That stunned me. "He what?" She shifted uncomfortably. "It's weird. He talks about you like you're some saint. Like he ruined everything and now you're untouchable. He compares everything I do to how you did it. It's exhausting." I didn't know what to say. The bitterness should have felt satisfying. It didn't. Because in the end, we were both left holding scraps of someone who never gave us the full version of himself. I stood up. "I hope you get out before you disappear too." She looked up at me with wide eyes. "You still love him?" "No," I said honestly. "But I loved me a whole lot less when I was with him. That's worse." Then I walked away. And for the first time in months I didn't look back. I didn't expect to feel peace after that conversation. But I did. Not a triumphant, movie-ending kind of peace. No fireworks. Just stillness. A quiet moment in my chest that hadn't existed in months. Like a door finally clicked shut, and I didn't need to open it again. I went home, fed tuna, watered my basil, and curled up on the couch with a blanket and a cheap thriller novel. It was the first time in a long time that I felt like I was living for me. Not for Jason. Not to prove something to someone. Just existing. Healing. But the universe wasn't done with me yet. A week later I got a call from Becca again. "Hey," she said quickly, voice tight with urgency. "Don't panic, but I think you should see something." My heart sank. "What now?" She sent a link. A post from Kayla. Again. Only this time it wasn't about Jason. It was about me. A video. The caption read, "I tried to be the bigger person, but she confronted me in public and said I was a homewrecker." Women should support women, not attack them. Here's the truth. I watched stunned. She had edited the farmer's market encounter to make it look like I ambushed her. She'd cut out everything she said, trimmed it to just my line, "You wore my hoodie," and paired it with text that implied I'd screamed at her, threatened her, made a scene. The comments were brutal. Wow, the entitlement. Did she think marriage was a hostage situation? Yikes. No wonder he went back to his ex. Team Kayla all the way. My blood boiled. I hadn't done anything wrong. And yet here I was again watching someone else rewrite my story. Becca texted again. She's spiraling. Jason's not talking to her anymore. She's trying to drag you down to get attention. I wanted to ignore it. I really did. But something inside me snapped. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my narrative. That night I sat at my desk and wrote everything down. The album. The fake hoodie story. The gaslighting. The slow disappearance of my identity inside a marriage that looked perfect from the outside. I wrote it raw. Vulnerable. Not angry, not bitter, just true. I posted it anonymously on a women's support forum. No names. No identifying details. Just E. The response was overwhelming. Within hours, hundreds of women commented. This gave me chills. I found my husband's secret album too. I thought I was the only one who was erased. It wasn't just my story. It was our story. And with every comment I felt a little less alone. A little less crazy. A little more real. A day later the post went viral. Not in the celebrity gossip Wayno tabloids. No clickbait headlines. Just quiet, widespread resonance. It was shared in private groups, support threads, therapy circles. People wrote essays about it. Some even called it emotional erasure. Then something unexpected happened. A small digital magazine contacted me. They'd read the post and asked if I'd be willing to publish it under my name, or even do an interview. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me was scared. Once my name was attached, I couldn't hide. Jason would know. Kayla would too. There would be backlash, judgment, gossip. But there would also be truth. And this time it would be my voice leading it. I agreed to an interview. I didn't name names. I didn't shame or accuse. I just told the story from my heart. The piece was called When He Erased Me from Our Wedding Photos. It went live on a Wednesday. By Thursday, I had dozens of messages in my inbox. Some were from strangers who thanked me for giving words to their pain. Some were from therapists who wanted to cite the piece in their sessions. And one was from Jason. Subject: I saw it. I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. I already knew what it would say. That he was sorry. That I had misunderstood. That I made him look bad. But I wasn't responsible for how Jason looked. He did that himself. I just turned on the light. That weekend, Mia dragged me out to a local art fair. I didn't want to go, but she insisted. It's time to live again, she said, shoving a cute scarf in my hands. Let the past stay where it belongs. As we wandered between booths of handmade jewelry and watercolor portraits, I saw a man standing by a clay pottery stall. He looked vaguely familiar. Tall. Soft eyes. A gentle smile. He was holding a cup of lemonade and laughing with the artist. When he caught my eye, he tilted his head and said, "Are you Emily?" I blinked. "Do I know you?" "No," he said. "But I read your story." My stomach flipped. "You wrote the piece about the wedding photos, right?" I nodded cautiously. He held out his hand. "I'm Matthew. My sister went through something really similar. I sent her your story. It helped her leave a guy she should have left years ago." I shook his hand. "That means a lot." I wasn't sure if sharing it would make a difference. "It did," he said simply. Then, smiling, "Want to see some clay dragons?" I laughed. For the first time in what felt like forever, I laughed without guilt or weight pressing on my chest. We walked around for 20 minutes. Talked about books. He told me he worked at a community library. I told him I just moved to my new place. He didn't bring up Jason. He didn't ask about Kayla. He just saw me now and listened. It wasn't a love story. Not yet. But it was something. Hope maybe. After the fair I went home, made pasta, and lit a candle on my windowsill. I pulled out my journal, the one I'd been looking for when this whole thing started, and finally wrote the final entry from my marriage chapter. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't angry. Just said, I was never the wrong woman. I was just with the wrong man. And now I get to choose what's next. And I did. I applied for a job I'd put off for years, an editor role at a publishing house that valued women's voices. I reconnected with old friends. I bought a new hoodie, one that no one else had ever worn but me. And I made a new album. Not from my wedding. From my rebirth. Photos of me and Tuna in the new apartment. A selfie with Mia after we survived assembling an IKEA shelf. A picture of the basil plant under morning light. And yes, one from the art fair, standing beside a tiny clay dragon holding a daisy. This time no one was cut out. No one was replaced. Because I wasn't waiting to be someone else's fantasy anymore. I was finally living my own damn story. Life didn't magically become perfect after that. I still had days where I woke up in a fog, where the ghost of who I used to be lingered around the edges of my mirror. Healing Isn't Line Army therapist reminded me of that every time I felt guilty for having a bad day. But the difference now was this. I no longer made room for people who made me feel small. I stopped shrinking myself to fit into their expectations. About 2 months after the article went live, I got an unexpected email from Jason's mother. I almost deleted it without opening it. But curiosity got the better of me. She wrote, Emily, I just wanted to say I read your article. I cried. I never knew the truth. Jason told us you left him without warning. He said you had mental health issues and just abandoned your marriage. I'm sorry I believed him. I'm sorry I didn't reach out. I'm sorry for not seeing you. Whatever happens, I want you to know I admired your grace. And I still think of you as family. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. But I let her message sit with me. I'd spent so much time feeling erased, invisible, misunderstood. And now, even in small ways, the world was beginning to see me again, not through Jason's lens but my own. Meanwhile, Kayla's video? It fizzled. Eventually, people stopped commenting. Her attempt at shaming me backfired when other women came forward saying she'd harassed them. 2 old stories, bitter friendships, ex-roommates. Apparently, I wasn't the first person she tried to gaslight on social media. Just the loudest one to push back. And Jason? Well, I heard through Becca that he spiraled for a while. He quit his job, tried to win Kayla back. She blocked him. Becca told me he started seeing a new therapist. One who didn't encourage photoshopping people out of their own lives. She said he wanted to write me a letter again. I told her gently, don't. I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't need vengeance or apology. I just didn't want his voice in my life at all. He'd said enough. I'd heard enough. This part of my story was over. That summer I started a blog. At first it was just for me, a way to process and organize my thoughts. But the more I shared, the more people found it. I wrote about everything. Not just the wedding photo saga, but self-worth, family, toxic resilience, even the quiet joy of planting herbs. One entry titled When Love Becomes Disguise gained traction in a literary circle. A small indie publisher reached out. Would I consider writing a collection of essays? I said yes. That manuscript became my new album. Every chapter was a piece of me I'd taken back. Not airbrushed. Not photoshopped. Not written for anyone else's approval. Real. Unfiltered. Mine. At the launch party, yes, they threw me a small launch party in a bookstore. I wore a deep green dress that hugged my curves unapologetically. Mia was there, beaming with pride. Matthew, the guy from the art fair, came too. We'd started seeing each other slowly, quietly. No expectations. Just presence. He stood in the back of the bookstore, holding a copy of my book with both hands like it might break if he dropped it. When I finished my reading and people applauded, I looked up and met his eyes. No judgment. No performance. Just support. Later, as we walked out into the night, he asked, "How does it feel to finally be seen?" I smiled. It feels like I don't have to explain myself anymore. We stood under a streetlight, and for a second the city hushed. He reached over and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. "You didn't deserve what happened to you," he said. "I know," I whispered. "And I'm glad you told the world. Because you gave so many people permission to speak." That stuck with me. I never meant to become a voice for others. I just wanted to reclaim mine. But sometimes that's all it takes, one person standing up so the others know it's safe to do the same. I didn't need to be loud. I just needed to be true. The final twist in this story wasn't dramatic. No car crashes. No screaming matches. No last-minute courtroom drama. It was quieter than that. It happened one morning about a year later, when I pulled down the box labeled "Nope" from the back of my closet. Inside was the letter Jason wrote. The one I never opened. I didn't read it. I burned it. I stood in my tiny backyard, holding it over a metal bowl, and let the flame curl the edges until it turned to ash. There was no anger in my hands. Just release. I wasn't mourning anymore. I wasn't even remembering. I was clearing space for what came next. So if you're reading this and wondering if you're crazy, if your partner's tiny slights and unspoken comparisons and passive-aggressive therapies are as bad as they feel, let me say this with the force of everything I've learned. You're not crazy. Love should not make you smaller. Real love doesn't edit you out of your own story. It honors you. It includes you. It sees you, even in your messiest moments. Especially in your messiest moments. And if someone chooses a ghost over you, don't haunt them back. Live louder. Take the photos. Write the stories. Water the plants. Wear the hoodie. Because one day, you'll look in the mirror and realize you didn't just survive that heartbreak. You rebuilt a life so honest no one could ever crop you out again. And that, my friend, is the most beautiful revenge of all.